Good afternoon, YouTubers. Car Biker here again. About 20 years ago was when I first met Mrs. Car Biker. I was 20, so it was a little bit over 20 years ago. She was 18. We didn't hit it off at first. Took us a while to get used to each other, or rather, took her a while to get to the point where she could put up with me. And at the time, we were both claiming benefits. Neither of us was working, and we met on a training course. Obviously, both of us trying to get some additional skills, or just show willing, so that people who were potentially employers could see that we weren't just sat on our backsides. Recently, I've been watching a few programs with politicians on and people just generally grumbling about the state of the economy and all that kind of thing, where myself, Mrs. Car Biker, would have been labelled as scroungers. I think unfairly. So because we were claiming benefits, and amongst those was housing benefits, because we wanted somewhere to live, strangely enough, as well as benefits to be able to feed ourselves and get on buses and things and try and find work. But at the moment, young people under 25s are definitely getting a bad reputation if they're on benefits. And there's another set of people who are getting a bad reputation because they are not really on benefits. I don't count it as a benefit, but it's old age pensioners. So people like my own mum and dad, who are claiming their pension. That thing that they spent 40 odd years of their life paying into. And I know technically you're not paying into a pension when for your old age pension, the state pension in this country. But they spent 40 odd years working and paying the taxes and paying the national insurance contributions and all this kind of thing. And now they're reaping the small benefit of a very low pension that's barely enough to live on. And we find that people like that are also getting into this position where they're almost being called scroungers. And I don't think that's fair either. And before I go into the next bit of this, I'd just like to point out, people on pensions are in a lot of cases are not really in a position where they can increase their income. They may be frail, they may be old and beyond working. There's not really a lot they can do to increase their income. If you take the pensions away, they're just going to be stuffed. And similarly, people who are under 25, or for that matter over 25, and on benefits are not all scroungers. There are a tiny minority. We keep seeing them on these programs and in the newspapers where they're trying to sensationalise it, but there are a tiny minority of people who just don't want to work and will happily live off benefits for the rest of their life. But a huge number of the people in the benefits situation are looking for work, desperate for work, but the economy is bad and the jobs aren't out there, and the training isn't out there to give people the skills they need to cross-train into different jobs. So we're not exactly helping people. And then a heck of a lot of people on benefits are already working. So what are they supposed to do? In a lot of cases, you've got two parents with a couple of kids working, both doing maybe one doing a full-time, one doing a part-time job, both on the minimum wage. It's just not enough to live on, so they get benefits to top that up, which to me isn't a benefit to the person. That's a benefit essentially paid to the person as a proxy to allowing businesses to get away with not paying people enough to live. Something they could solve by upping the minimum wage so that people had a living wage and they could actually afford to live. But that's not going to happen, is it? Not with all these millionaires who are in charge at the minute. The whole cabinet seems to be a set of millionaires. And these are the people, this is where I come back to pensioners and young people. These politicians, these multi-millionaires who are lining their own pockets and lining the pockets of their big business friends, are the ones who are spreading this message that young people and old people are scroungers. Why aren't they saying it about the people in the middle? Why is it that 40-year-olds who are on benefits don't get it? And there's nothing wrong with those people either. Now, my suspicion is that this is divide and rule. My suspicion is that the politicians know this country is in a complete mess. They're desperate to do the cuts. I suspect that a lot of these cuts are nothing to do with necessity, but are all about the aims that they have and their beliefs as politicians. But if you divide us in this way, if you get the young people saying, well, it's the old people who are at fault, it's the old age pensioners, they're taking 12 billion or 7 billion a year in money off the government, whatever that might be, then the young people start thinking, well, it's the old people to blame, and stop looking at the politicians who are actually in control of this. And the old people, well, they're getting told that young people are scroungers, and I quite often hear it from the elderly. You see it on the TV and what have you. They're getting interviewed in the street, and you get this same thing of, oh, these young people are all scroungers. So, if nothing else, the politicians have successfully separated, divided these two sets of people. You can't really do it with the people in the middle because they're not at the extremes, they're not as easy to identify, are they? So we've got the old and the young both blaming each other for the problems of each not having enough money to live on. And who's really at fault? These multi-millionaire people who have no grasp of what it's like to be normal, to have a normal income and to live a normal life. You know, to have to strive and work hard to be able to afford that house or that car or that motorbike. They've got no grasp of it whatsoever. And I don't think they care either. As long as they can keep lining their pockets, I think they're happy. So the only thing I would say is, please, everybody, don't let them divide us. You know, they don't want us to be one big group. They want us to be these divided groups, annoyed with each other, so that we forget about the big picture, that the country's in a mess because of these millionaires making bad decisions allegedly on our behalf. And then they come up with this thing, you hear it all the time, that, well, it's a democracy, if you don't like it you can vote us out. Can we really? Can we really? Well, we can. We've got to wait 5 years. That's quite a long time for you to mess things up for us, Mr. Politician. You know, you can do a lot of damage in 5 years. Well, this lot and the last lot have proved that by doing it in a lot less than 5 years. But also, can we really vote you out? Because what we've got now, this coalition, nobody voted for that. They keep saying we did, but nobody voted for that. More people voted for the Tories than for the other two parties, but not for the other two parties to get put together. So you could argue that, on their logic, we also voted for a coalition of Labour and Liberals, or a coalition of Tory and Labour, which will never happen, but actually more people voted for that coalition than for any other. So we didn't vote you in, really. We can't vote you out, really. And anyway, if you live somewhere like I live, it doesn't really matter who you vote for, because the vast majority of people vote in one particular way. You know, it doesn't really matter. I don't live in an area that's a swing, what do they call it, a swinging constituency or whatever. It is literally everybody votes Labour in one part, everybody votes Tory in another part, and they get in and have done forever. So that doesn't work either. I'm not calling for revolution, mind. I know there's some people calling for revolution. I had to point out that the one who's been big about calling for resolution resolution would be nice, for revolution is Russell Brand, the comedian. And I'm pretty sure he won't want revolution. He won't want the side effect that here's another potentially very rich man who will lose a lot of money if there's a revolution. So I'm sure he doesn't really want it. I think what he really wants is some self-publicity. Anyway. as Jim would say. Any road up. I've talked for long enough. This is another one where I can get angry. Another angry biker instead of calm biker. Deep breaths. Thanks for watching, YouTubers. Ride safe, everyone, and I shall rant at you again soon.